Hi, welcome back. My name is Laurie, and this is another DR Boxing production, the show that covers all the relevant stories in boxing. Let me quickly introduce my two guests. Starting to my right, James Toon in the house. What are you saying, bro?
What's going on, boys? It's going to be a good one, mate. Already had some crazy opinions flying. Can't wait.
We have. And to my left, the voice of reason, Nick Francis in the house. What are you saying?
I'm here, man. I'm here.
Okay, so on this show, I thought we'd chop it up and we'd talk about something that's kind of doing my head in a little bit, I must admit, man. The current parlous state of the heavyweight boxing division. The flagship of boxing, I think we all agree. When you've got the heavyweight boxing functioning correctly, it sort of...
Trickles down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For want of a better word. And at the moment, man, heavyweight boxing just seems in disarray to me. We could pin it all on one person, and I'm inclined to do so, but I won't, because I don't think the problem is just him, although he's a major part of it. And when I'm talking about that person, I'm talking about the current WBC lineal heavyweight champion in the world, the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury.
Fury hater, man. He's done so many good things for the sport. You're just hating on him.
Good things for the sport,
He's done great things for the sport.
He's a great fighter.
He's
I think
fantastic
I'm not
fighter.
sure if he's proved himself to be a great fighter.
Of course he's proved himself to be a great fighter.
Has he?
He hasn't proved himself to be an all-time great yet.
What's his best win?
Vladimir Klitschko. I think that was the one he was most doubted upon. If you're looking at in terms of adversity and going through losing all the weight, I think the first fight that he was robbed against Deontay Wilder, I think that was the most impressive, and the way that he dealt with him.
Disagree with
No, we have never seen anyone deal with Deontay Wilder the way he did in that second fight, where he just walked him down and battered Wilder into oblivion, battered him into delusion. If anything, he started blaming his coach, he started blaming poison, he started blaming his outfit because he got battered that hard. But Vladimir Klitschko, the stranglehold that he had over heavyweight boxing, to go over there,
that was a good win, even though the fight was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I think it made history by being the fight with the lowest amount of output in terms of punches landed in heavyweight boxing.
But he got the job done, and it was very entertaining outside the ring.
Lower than Audley Harrison?
Yeah, man. It was,
really?
It was a woeful fight to watch. But, as James said, he got the job done. Now, listen, when it comes to Tyson Fury, I've said it on this show before, I'm not an admirer of the way he goes about his thing. But then you can say that for a lot of fighters. But what I would say is that on current form, well, maybe not current form, but in terms of his record and what he's accomplished, he is probably the best heavyweight out there at the moment, I think. But you see, that's part of the problem, because the man was slated to fight Alexander Usyk, who's come up from cruiserweight, had those wins over, was it Chaz Witherspoon, then he fought Derek Chisora, and then, of course, famously beaten AJ twice, took his titles, and he's the other belt holder. He goes to WBA, IBF, WBO, you know what I mean? So he holds all the other belts, and he's supposed to fight Tyson Fury. And I think, and this is my personal opinion, that Tyson Fury shamelessly ducked him. And since that, the whole chain of events with the heavyweight division, man, it's just gone awry. We're hearing about tournaments in Saudi Arabia. We still don't know if that's going to take place. There's a lot of toing and froing, and even AJ, he's supposed to fight Dillian White. We're now hearing that might not go ahead. Dillian's priced himself out. Then it's supposed to be back on again. Then it's not. Now Dillian's saying he might not take the fight.
Before we get to AJ, one thing we should all agree on is that we are owed, from all these boxers, an undisputed fight. We are owed an undisputed fight from before Fury even came back. When it was AJ Wilder, we were owed an undisputed fight. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this undisputed fight forever, and now the belts have completely changed hands. There were two different people, and we still can't get an undisputed fight.
But I mean, look at the
ridiculous.
welterweights. In about a month's time, man, we'll be sitting in front of the TV screens watching, you know, what I mean, the best fight of many a year.
Same for the lightweights.
But it's annoying. If the thing is,
and if that man can get it on,
we've waited so long for an undisputed fight. It does. If the undisputed fight is Fury versus Usyk, it does kind of suck a bit from like a big fight perspective. No, for me personally, now out of all the undisputed fights we could have had, like at their time, peak excitement wise, Wilder versus AJ. AJ undefeated, Deontay Wilder undefeated, two knockout specialists, two killers in the ring. AJ versus Fury. The battle of the Brits, the two biggest fighters in the last 20 years in British boxing. Out of those two fights, to then get Fury versus Usyk. It's a massive fight. Don't get me wrong. Compared to the other
Usyk
no,
obviously.
Boxing's supposed to be a meritocracy.
Yeah,
so it's supposed to be the two
I know what you're saying. From a promotional perspective, Usyk's not native English speaking. He's not British and American, which are two of the bigger fan bases. He's not a big guy that's going to draw people in because of knockouts. He's a real purist boxer. So from a financial perspective and from a build-up perspective, he's also quite nice, whereas the others are a little bit more edgy. On the edgy, I was going to say, in terms of the gloves are off and stuff like that. I would still pay money to see gloves are off between AJ and Deontay Wilder, just to see that.
But will we ever get those fights?
That's the point we're making.
Amazing.
Is that what's going to happen if Fury and Usyk fight? Fury's going to try and banter him and get in his head. Usyk's going to sit there and smile and say,
but will they fight? I'm not convinced that we'll ever see that fight.
Imagine the gloves off between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Imagine the level of shit talk.
What I'm saying is, right,
that is peak. I would
for the
watch
sake
that
of boxing,
rewind.
we need an undisputed champion, and we just never seem to get it. Nick touched on it. Even when AJ had the belts and Wilder had the WBC belt, before Fury took it off him in, let's face it, pretty comprehensive terms. That fight was being spoke about. We never got it, and then, Fury's got the titles. There's a seeming reluctance for him to want to take on Usyk.
He's holding him to ransom.
Right, and it's just damaging
I don't
the
think Fury's scared.
And I just think that in boxing...
None of these guys are scared.
But he's clearly ducking Usyk.
None of these guys... It's the thing we talk about every week. It's risk versus reward. And the reward that he's going to get for fighting Usyk, because of who Usyk is not going to be as big. There is not as much money on the table. This is why they're talking about tournaments and the rest of it. He's not going to get as much money as he would have got when it was AJ. He would have looked at that. When you've got £100 million check in front of you, and then you look at a £30 million check a week later, yes, it's £30 million, but it's not the same as the £100 million that was on the table before. So that changes his mindset. And yes, but James is going to say...
the whole landscape of the division is up in arms.
The whole landscape of boxing is up in arms.
He's supposed to fight Usyk. They begin talking. He gives Usyk all these shitty terms. Usyk calls his bluff and said, hang on, you know what, I'll take it. Still no fight. And then Tyson Fury's out there throwing out challenges to MMA fighters like Francis Ngannou.
Worse than that, he's throwing out...
was happening before.
But he's throwing out challenges to not even top 10 ranked heavyweights from Australia. That's even worse.
No, he does. Some of the stuff he's come out with recently,
and I
don't
defend
agree.
that, fan.
The biggest travesty of it all was with the Anthony Joshua thing the second time. I'll get on to the first one after, when Deontay Wilder effed up the... He's the one that caused this whole mess,
They're all doing it.
No, but he was meant to be fighting AJ, and then he was putting all these stipulations in terms of, you have to get this signed now, you have to do this now, you have to do this within the week, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later he's fighting oh my god, my brain is he's fighting Derek Chisora.
That is why I feel so sorry.
Why is he fighting Derek Chisora for a third time? Why do we need that?
He is the lone fighter, in my opinion,
who
that's
will
shown
fight anyone.
willingness to take on any of the others.
I agree.
Who, AJ?
No, Usyk.
Usyk is. I think AJ
taking
is
on
as
AJ.
well.
He's a road warrior. He fights outside of his country.
AJ didn't have to fight Usyk. AJ could have.
But AJ didn't fight Wilder
when AJ lost. Hold on. When AJ, I think that you're right. But when AJ lost, I have to say, when he first lost that fight to Ruiz, after AJ, the angriest man on the planet must have been Deontay Wilder, because he must have been sitting there looking at that performance thinking, if he's just lost like that to Andy Ruiz, I would have absolutely punched this guy's head.
Was the one that ducked it.
Obviously, at the time it was 50-50.
Wilder was the one that ducked it, not AJ.
Both of them.
Because it was the reason why Wilder took the fight with Fury, because he thought Fury was overweight, because he thought he was going to be an easy target. That's why he took the fight with Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua has never ducked anyone in his career. Whenever you seen him duck anyone, he got such a rough time for that. Eddie Hearn got so much slack.
It could arguably be said,
he's fought every single mandatory in his hat
with reasonable justification that AJ and his team, namely Eddie Hearn, swerved Deontay Wilder.
I disagree with it. I think it was Wilder.
But a lot of people are of that opinion. And I personally think that whilst AJ probably would have taken the fight, because he is a warrior, and I do think he'd fight anyone, but it was very clear to me that Eddie Hearn was doing his best to steer him away from that fight. And I'm saying to you guys that the one person out of all those names that we've just called that seems to be willing to take on anyone is Alexander Usyk. And that's why I feel very sorry for him. He's trying to make the fight with Fury. He can't get it. And, the whole heavyweight division, as far as I'm concerned, is what should be the flagship division of boxing, is at the moment the least active and the least inspiring.
And if I build on what you're saying as well, again, it's that AJ would have taken the fight. He's a fighting man. He'll fight anyone. I think he believes that in his head. But they obviously want to get the most money they can, but they're just pushing it too far. They're pushing it beyond the point. We're even talking about tournaments and 150, 200 million pound tournaments, all this kind of stuff to get all these guys to fight.
But is that even on that tournament? Because
no.
if you listen to some of the so-called participants, they're saying that there's no deal yet in place, and they can't even get the warm-up fight sorted out.
No,
you know what I mean. So
it's not.
There's no direction.
I think AJ versus Wilder might happen, but I don't think there is any way that it's going to be a tournament with Fury and Usyk. I mean, I said it when they first spoke about it. I don't see any of them being happy to be on the undercard for anyone else.
So how does this get resolved?
I don't know how it gets resolved. Fury and Usyk stop mucking around with negotiations and actually sort out an actual deal. The teams still need to come to some sort of conclusion.
I would say that
whether it's Fury or Frank Warren or who it is, someone needs to stop mucking
I would say that the WBC probably needs to get involved and threaten to strip Tyson Fury. But then you heard Suleiman, who's the boss of the WBC, he's saying that they won't do that. Tyson Fury's trying to make the fights, but not being able to.
Yeah, because they care about money. They don't want Tyson Fury. The worst thing for the WBC, the worst thing for any of these commissions possible, is Usyk beating Fury. If Usyk is undisputed champion, they are all having nightmares. They would love AJ to be undisputed. They would love Wilder to be undisputed. They would love Fury. The least marketable, the least sellable out of all those names is Usyk, and that's a big factor.
I mean, we can't even get AJ versus Dillian Whyte, which I have to admit I'm not wholly excited about, because we've seen that.
But this is the problem.
Dillian, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to want to take the fight. Now, listen, his reasons for not taking it may well be justifiable, because we're hearing talk about money. Dillian saying it's not the money. They're attaching clauses to it that he's not happy about. One of which being a rematch clause.
But if
you're Dillian Whyte, no disrespect to Dillian, because he, over the years he's proven himself to be a top heavyweight. But if you're trying to get yourself back in a foothold on the heavyweight division, surely you take that fight against.
But is he?
Whoa,
that's the thing. To me, a lot of these guys are looking for cash out money. They're coming towards the tail end of their career. They want the big money to cash out. All of these guys are in their 30s. All of them. None of these guys are spring chickens. They're all looking for potential. They want to make enough money that if there is a banana skin and they slip up, they can make enough money. And it's stalling everybody else's career, because when AJ was on the come up and he was making big money fights, everybody's name got built off the back of AJ's name. Everyone was getting big money. This is why Coley and these guys started turning around going, I'm not getting paid the big money, because AJ's not winning fights anymore. You can't get paid that money.
The whole division is in disarray.
But all of boxing
But there is one
disarray.
shining light, I think, potentially. One shining light, and he fights next week. I think it's July the 8th. Jared Anderson from the USA, a.k.a. Big Baby Anderson.
You're a fan of the American fighters called Big Baby?
No.
Big Pharmacy Anderson.
Not Jarrell, not if their name is called Jarrell Miller. But yeah, Jared Anderson seems to be the real deal. He's fighting, I think he was to fight a Kazakh fighter with a good record. He pulled out for visa issues. I don't quite know what's going on there. He's fighting Charles Martin next week. To me, that's a bit of a pushover job. But he looks to be the one guy that I'm looking at on the horizon that might be able to get us out of this mess. But even that's going to take a while to sort out.
But it's not just that. There are plenty of good fighters out there. The heavyweight division I think is actually stacked with pretty good talent.
But they won't fight each other.
That's what I was going to say. The problem is, because it's all well and good, Jared Anderson's the next sexy prospect. That's great. But then Eddie Hearn just won't put any of his fighters in with them, and neither will Frank Warren. They're when Tyson Fury said, right, I'm done with you guys.
Jared Anderson's top rank, by the way.
What showed me that Tyson Fury is not a serious guy is when he said, right, I'm not doing the fight with you guys, I'm not getting the money, whatever. He didn't even go for someone in the top 10 or the top 15 or like a respectable name. He's gone way down the pecking order to go and pull these names out of his backside. And then the WBC, once he says, right, I want to fight this guy who's really a nobody in the division, the WBC slaps them into a top 15 position.
I'm despairing at the heavyweight division. James, what's the solution to this, bro?
The solution is very, very, very simple.
Is it though?
You put AJ in there against Fury. Solves every single problem.
Yeah, but the two of them have got
biggest fight in
we see
boxing
what happened
history.
Before when they tried to make that fight. It
Solves
just fell
it all.
down.
Solves it all.
What's the common denominator to a lot of these fights not being made?
Tyson, you could argue Tyson Fury has been a stumbling block.
So
yes,
I think
you can argue it, and we're arguing it.
Yeah, and I think realistically, he's got to be forced to fight one of these guys. And I think the only people that can really make him do that, as far as the titles are concerned, are the WBC. But unfortunately, they released a statement the other week saying they're not attaching any blame to Tyson Fury. Yeah. They're confident that he is trying to make the fights, and there will be big fights made soon. But how soon is soon? I mean, Tyson Fury was quoted just this week as saying he's working on some plans, watch this space, big fight. But how many times have we heard that? How many times has he cried wolf on that situation? Nick, what's got to happen to turn this apparent demise of the heavyweight division around?
He needs to be stripped, which isn't going to happen. What needs to happen is fresh talent has to come in and make statements. You know what I mean? That's where you spoke about Jared Anderson. Fresh talent coming in, whether they want to fight them or not. And what's going to happen is that the belts are going to lose their prestige. They're going to lose their meaning. We're going to have people with belts for 2 years, 3 years, no defenses. They're going to become meaningless. And so at some point, once the WBC and the other franchises realize that actually this guy over here who has the belt isn't even generating the revenue anymore because this guy's making all the noise, like, I don't know, Tank with no belts versus some of the other lightweight guys who maybe have belts. You know, when you get into a situation like that, then they'll start pushing. But we're a long way off from
the people that make all the noise are the people that are already in contention for the belts or had the belts. No one in the heavyweight division is going to make as much noise within the next... He's nowhere near going to make as much noise as a Wilder, an AJ, or a Fury. These are 3 ridiculously big megastars. Deontay Wilder probably the least of the bunch. AJ and Fury.
No, but even I'll stop you right there. Deontay Wilder.
But Fury made him a big star.
There's another example. Deontay Wilder, him and Andy Ruiz supposed to fight. Now we're hearing that Andy Ruiz is balking at the deal. People are saying he's trying to price himself out of it. Another example of top heavyweight fights not being made. So we've got to wrap this up.
All these guys were do you know what happened? A lot of these guys were overpaid. I know they're putting their life on the line. I understand that. But a lot of these guys were overpaid at the time, especially the fringe guys, especially the guys that didn't hold belts. To be fair, Wilder held a belt, but the Deontay Wilders, maybe Andrew Ruiz, maybe some of these guys, Dillian Whyte, because of his association with Eddie Hearn and AJ, a lot of these guys were overpaid money that fighters that are their level but like 10 years younger than them would never be getting paid that kind of money. And now it's coming to the tail end of their career and they're going, I'm not fighting for this, my rate is now this, and it's ridiculous. The money's not in the pot.
If we draw from the example with the big super fight coming up at the end of July, Errol Spence and Crawford, apparently those two got on the phone to each other and said, listen, man, and I'm paraphrasing now, let's cut the crap. We both want this fight. Let's make it happen. And I think something similar kind of needs to happen with the heavyweight division because the governing bodies, namely the WBC, there's a gross dereliction of duty there. The fighters don't appear to want to get things done, or most of them anyway. I'm absolving Usyk of any blame, and AJ to a lesser degree. But a lot of the other guys just seem to don't want to get it on.
This never would have happened to Shannon Briggs when he was turning up to people going, give me a fight, give me a fight. This never would have happened. We would have had fights galore.
Shannon the Cannon.
But so there you have it. You've heard from myself, you've heard from Nick, you've heard from James, our frustration. We'll put it over to you guys. What do you think should happen? Other than stripping people and putting a gun to their heads. Whoa. How are we going to make these big fights happen? We've got this so-called tournament in the Middle East looming on the horizon in December, but there's nothing been signed, or if that's what we're hearing to be the case. We can't even get fights in the interim. There seems to be no direction, no shape. Very frustrating. As I said, the heavyweight division, we all agree, is the flagship division of boxing, and it's just so disappointing. So listen, maybe you guys can put it in the comments. Tell us what you think, but we're all very frustrated.
I think there's 2 words that will be the only solution to any of this. That is oil, money. That's it. Well, or just money.
Well, they always say whenever you want to find out what's going wrong, you always follow the money trail. So, yeah, I think you're probably right. Okay, guys, that's it for this show. Please like the video. We appreciate that. Does a lot for the algorithms. We want you to subscribe to the channel. Let your friends know about it. We're fledgling. We're growing. We want more and more people to subscribe and watch the videos and share and do everything else. Please hit the notification button for more content from DR Sports and DR Sports Boxing. Thanks to Nick. Thanks to James. We're out. Take care. See you soon.